I once had heard the idea of taking responsibility for things that you had not considered. When I thought on this internally, I came to the understanding of how beneficial this can be for anyone who begins to try to see this for themselves. When you look at everything going on in this existence as your responsibility, you take a very different stance on life. A passive mass of people who think they are powerless are easily controlled and misled into cyclical destruction. People who take responsibility for everything in their existence, however, are not powerless in the least. For those who can realize that their thoughts, emotions, and opinions influence reality, can take responsibility for that which those who accept the material aspect only would deny. That's not to say one way is right, but one way of thinking in this case can be more empowering to the self than the other can. Some of the material mind will call it make-believe or foolishness. If you are of such a mind, I warn you, this series may not be for you. If you choose not to consider anything at all under the massive label of the paranormal, then that is your right. But there is much to be covered in here on these topics, and there is little here for those who think only on matter of empirical facts accepted by modern consensual reality. After all, think about it. Are you so sure we are nothing more than bodies decaying slowly in a senseless, chaotic reality where nothing matters? Because that's what the mainstream would have you believe, despite growing modern scientific evidence that is now pointing to another conclusion. Those of you oblivious to the concept that you are being controlled through official sources such as monarchs, governments, priests, parents, police, educational institutions, and mainstream media tend to be stuck in accepting everything presented by official sources as true and nothing else. You're experiencing what you have been prescribed alongside a financial system built to be worshipped like a god, and in turn you aren't truly creating your own reality. This, again, is tied in with responsibility, for when you look at yourself and see this happening, you can either sweep it under the rug and continue to be subservient, giving away your natural creative powers, or you can take responsibility for where you have ended up and work at emancipating yourself from the control structures that seek to dominate all in this reality. It may not be easy to do so, but anything worth doing in this life is seldom easy and quite rewarding upon completion. As one of my favorite speakers, Terence McKenna, says, if you want to free your mind, then don't consume culture. Create culture. If you want to take responsibility for what you experience, try creating instead of consuming. Why not create beautiful art rather than observe it? For if you create something, your emotions and outlooks at the given time that make you feel happy, sad, or melodic are all a direct result of your own actions. Rather than placing your satisfaction on the outcome of an external source, you can be happy from simply experiencing yourself and expressing yourself. This can be very constructive and healthy. Plus, it encourages us to take responsibility for how much time we spend watching TV that we could spend doing something creative and expressive. When you accept responsibility for everything in this reality, you shift from a reactive perspective to a proactive perspective. You can then begin to look at how you can change every little thing in this existence rather than being subject to an infinite barrage of outside forces. When you know that every day you spend wasting away in boredom is a manifestation of your inner desires, you tend to work at changing it. Simply put, boredom is a choice. One who takes responsibility for their boredom rather than seeking outer fulfillment out of the imposed desire to fill a non-existent gap in the self is able to be satisfied by simply existing and knowing that they have the power to live as they choose. When people have an altercation with anyone in their life that they deem unpleasant or a mistake, the most common reaction that will be given is one of blame. It's easy to put the blame of the entire undesirable situation on outside forces, since it removes the concept of any wrongdoing from your ego at the time. However, if you take responsibility for the situation that you experience, no matter what it may be, you can look at what you could have done to affect the situation differently. Alternatively, you can simply accept the situation for what it is and place no significance on it. Passivity stemming from placing no significance on any given situation not only helps one to adapt to changing circumstances, but also serves to diffuse the most hostile situations through the mindset that it brings. Bearing everything I mentioned in mind, it's easy to see how many of the world's problems could be solved by shifting the stance of responsibility we all take. If the unenlightened masses were to take responsibility for the issues that they are creating in their ignorance, then maybe one day we could see the end of people destroying cyclically without pause. We could begin to undo the massive damage done to our planet and people out of irresponsibility and ignorance. Such modern incarnations of our collective irresponsibility would include the garbage swirls that dominate our oceans, massive genocides against the people of the planet, not the people of any one country or collective thought grouping, but simply the humans who inhabit this planet. The collective wealth hoarding and mass-scale manipulation and mind invasion created by the top 1% of the world's most wealthy, cold, and cruel-minded people that generates massive strife worldwide. All of this can be changed by choosing to take responsibility rather than seeking to be rid of it. However, I cannot expect someone to choose to change their way of thinking in any regard. I can simply put forth the information I would like to present to you. In the end, what you do with it is up to you. Ultimately, the choices we make are our responsibility. Where will your choices take you? What ideas and actions will you take responsibility for? How far will you take it? Will you take responsibility for the disruptions you find displeasing in your personal life? Or will you extend your considerations on responsibility to external events such as crimes or violent acts? Why not? Science is now finding that when enough humans choose to feel and hold peace in their bodies, then all violent crimes and violent acts in their area of living drops to near 0%. The amount of people needed to do this is minuscule too. It's the square root of 1% of the amount of people you are trying to affect. Who's to say that by being negative you don't help cause a reverse effect on this concept? Given this knowledge, you could begin to live your life in a way that manifests what you want to experience by taking responsibility for your thoughts and actions. You then might be able to take it a step further and consider that you might be part of the infinite divinity responsible for creating this universe and everything in it, and that your actions truly do matter every day in every way.